All right, thank you for that, Lisette. Just so you all know, we are recording. We will be providing this recording as a follow-up to everyone here today, and also making it publicly available for those that are unable to join on this session or our following session next week. So first, I just want to start off by welcoming everyone. Thank you so much for logging on and tuning in this morning. This is the Great Lakes Restoration Community Grant Program informational webinar. Really grateful for you all to be here and your interest in this program. It's taken quite a bit of time to get here, and there's been a lot of work behind the scenes, but we're excited to be moving this initiative and this effort forward, and we appreciate just the larger community's patience in this process. And so with that, we'll get started. Just to give you a sense of today's flow of the presentation informational webinar, you're going to receive an introduction to our program partners. You'll receive an overview of the Great Lakes Restoration Community Grant Program in terms of who those partners are, what their roles are, just to give you a sense of who you can connect with, who you can follow up with should you have questions through the process. Then we'll get really into the details of the request for applications of the RFA. We'll go through the eligibility, so what organizations, what entities can apply for this particular grant funding. What are the ways that you can use that funding as it ties to this particular program's initiative. We'll give you a sense of the process and the timeline of the overall request for applications. And then we'll have an opportunity to hear from our partners over at Unisolutions that is going to walk folks through the actual platform that we're utilizing, the Unigrants Amplifund platform, as the actual site where you go and log on to apply. And then we'll have some follow-up in terms of resources, and we'll provide a little bit of time, hopefully, for some questions and answers, and go from there. So I just wanted to provide this going into this, right? We use a lot of acronyms, and I'm sure a lot of people use it in the different fields that there are. But for those that aren't aware, for the acronyms that we're using for this particular presentation, here's just a slide to make you aware of what those acronyms are. The most significant ones to kind of make note of is, RFA, request for applications, and then the LOI, the letter of intent, which we'll be referring to quite a bit through this presentation. And so we just want to keep you informed, and we'll make these available as well as a resource for those that would like to utilize them in some capacity. And so going into the overview or the background of the program itself, the Great Lakes Restoration Community Grant Program is a partnership amongst 3 organizations. Restore America's Estuaries, which is the organization that I myself work for, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, specifically Region 5 and the Great Lakes National Program Office. And then we have our organizational partners in Junction Coalition that are based out of Toledo, Ohio. And we're one of 5 organizations and agencies that received funding through the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, GLRI, to implement the community grant program. And really the goal and the focus of this particular grant program is to build capacity, right? To build capacities for organizations across the region, specifically for those, not specifically, but offering an opportunity for those organizations to pursue, apply, and manage the federal funding, that they've never had that opportunity. And so the capacity building element comes in a couple of different ways. One is that we offer technical assistance through the process, right? So with the start of the request for applications, you'll see that we make ourselves available, our partners make themselves available for any questions that organizations might have throughout. The other is that we're going to be offering, and we have offered, sessions around topics that'll help enhance organizational skills, organizational capacity to do just that, is manage these federal fundings and these awards that can be applied, very specifically to this grant program, but also hopefully, be able to apply to other grant opportunities as they see. And so the other aspect of this is that, and we'll get into this more, is that it's also about addressing some of the environmental issues and concerns that we experience throughout our region within our communities. So it's very community-based, oriented, and very localized in that regard. So I want to introduce you to the faces and the staff that we have um, from Restore America's Estuaries. This is just a subset of the Great Lakes team. Um, and I'll get more into like our organizational history and the way we're structured. But my name is Jesus Sanchez. So I'm the program director for Restore America's Estuaries Great Lakes Restoration Community Grant Program. I've been with the organization since August of 2024. My main role and responsibilities are centered around just the overall project implementation and management of the Great Lakes program. So that's all the deliverables as it relates to our agreement with the Environmental Protection Agency Region 5, as well as just working with our staff and partners and the various aspects of the grant program. So I'll turn it over to Lisette for an introduction. Oh, and before I do that, Lisette, I'm sorry. I'm based out of Cleveland, Ohio, for those that are wondering. So go ahead, Lisette. Sorry.
Thank you, Jesus. Yeah, hi everyone. My name is Lisette Perez. I'm the program associate for the Great Lakes Restoration Community Grant Program. I've been with the organization for a year now, and I am based in Chicago. And I support the communications, outreach, and engagement for the grant program. And I'm very excited to have you all here today. Thank you for joining us.
Great. And then I'm wondering, is Justice on with us this morning?
Yes, I believe he
Hey,
is.
good morning, Jesus. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you, Justice, for being here. Just want to
I
offer you
am
opportunity. Yep.
I am Justice Davis. I am a very busy guy. I have been with the organization since January. The things that I deal with respect to the program are anything that is compliance related, finance related, or administration related. So I answer all the difficult questions about the rules around the federal government, the person that has to deal with the budgets and all the regulations, how we do things, the contracts, things like that. That's my field of expertise. And I manage multiple other programs here at Restore America's Estuaries as well in the same capacity. So glad to be here. Glad to meet you all.
Thank you, Justice. Appreciate you being here this morning. And so Justice mentioned that he manages several other grant programs from Restorative Estuaries. Just to give you a little background on the organization itself, this is the first initiative that Restorative America's Estuaries has within the Great Lakes region. We are actually, Lisette and I, the first staff in this region for the organization. So we're a national nonprofit. We have about 15 staff members located throughout the United States. And really the organization's goal and focus is really dedicated to the protection and restorations of bays and estuaries as an economic resource for our nation and for our community. So historically, for the 30 years, Restorative America's Estuaries has primarily operated in coastal regions, and so we operate 5 other similar grant programs throughout the region. Our organization is based on a member and affiliate where they collaborate to really protect and restore coastal habitats so that all people can benefit from them. And some examples of organizations that are affiliate members as well as part of our board. You can see there that primarily in the coastal regions, and we'll have to update this hopefully to include the Great Lakes region. But some of that habitat and restoration work has focused on, coastal wetlands, fish passages, removal of invasive species, building living shorelines, seagrasses, salt marshes, and really restoring and maintaining shellfish habitat as examples of what this organization uh, has done through its programs. And so now I want to offer an opportunity for our partners who are present today and Donald Wiggins from the Junction Coalition to just introduce the organization and give a little bit of background.
Hi, everyone. I'm Donald Wiggins with the Junction Coalition based here in Toledo, Ohio. Thank you so much, Jesus, Lizette, and Justice for putting this together. Pleasure to see you all today. It's been an absolute pleasure working with the Restoring America's Estuaries team to get this grant program going, and it's been a very long time coming. The Junction Coalition is a community-based organization based in Toledo, Ohio, that's dedicated to the enrichment and empowerment of the Junction neighborhood, but we serve the larger Toledo and Northwest Ohio area, although we have a full footprint all throughout the United States of America. And with that, I'll kick it back over to back over to Jesus.
All right. Thanks so much for being here, Donald. We're really fortunate and appreciative of the partnership that we have with Junction Coalition. They've been really instrumental in just connecting with organizations throughout the region, in the communities, and as they continue to grow their organizational capacity and become a leader in a lot of these efforts. We really appreciate working side by side with them on this initiative. And so, transitioning a little bit into the why of what we're doing here and the reason. I think, for many of you, I'm likely preaching to the choir, but we know that the Great Lakes provides 84% of North America's surface fresh water and 21% of the world's supply of fresh surface water. And so, we can't undervalue the tremendous resource that the Great Lakes are, right? And give to the communities throughout the region. And so that's the why we're here is we all have, you know, something in common in terms of wanting to maintain, sustain, conserve, preserve this resource, not only for our generations, but for future generations and many more to come. And the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative, has been around since 2010, and it's a multi-agency partner. There's federal organizations that it comprises and works the Great Lakes, as well as other community members throughout the region that inform some of the strategies and work. And so the establishment of the Great Lakes Restoration has enabled, a lot of projects that, look to conserving and restoring and preserving the Great Lakes. And we've come a long way. I grew up on the shores of Lake Erie and in Lorain, Ohio, um, near the Black River, right? And now I reside in Cleveland, Ohio, and understanding the history of our watersheds and our waterways, and to seeing where they're at today, it's been amazing just to see the progress that's been made. But I'm also looking forward to the continuation of that and what it brings to the future. And so that's what's really tied to this particular grant program. It is a Great Lakes Restoration Initiative project. Again, we're one of 5 organizations that receive the ability to manage this grant and provide this opportunity to organizations throughout the region. We are the region-wide, the basin-wide project. And so the Great Lakes Restoration Initiative has 5 different focus areas that you see listed there. Although I do want to say that this grant program, we'll get more into the specifics of which focus areas this grant program focuses on. But you have toxic substances and areas of concern as the focus area 1 for the GLRI. Invasive species, so the control, the detection, and the prevention of those. Non-point source pollution, so reducing runoff, addressing, nutrient loads, preparing and establishing riparian buffers and wetlands to mitigate some of that runoff. And then restoration of habitats and aquatic connectivity throughout our watersheds and region. And then focused area 5 through the GLRI, which is the foundations for future restoration actions, which is, experience-based, experiential learning, lake-wide monitoring and planning. So a lot of environmental education can be tied to that particular focus area. Now, the Great Lakes Restoration Community Grant Program has specific, so if you go into the GLRI and you review the plan, you'll see that there's these measures of progress. There's this grid. Actually, the GLRI has been updated for 2025 through 2029. And so this grid lists all these measures of progress. So we've worked with our partners at Region 5 EPA to identify what areas align and that organizations can pursue funding for support for their projects around these measures of progress. And so it's acres of controlled for invasive species that benefit habitat, native species, and communities. Um, Pounds of phosphorus reductions from agriculture conservation practice implementation. Gallons of stormwater or runoff reduced. Miles of Great Lakes streams and shoreline restored or protected. Acres of riparian buffers, wetlands, and floodlands restored or reconnected. Acres of coastal wetland, nearshore, and other habitats protected or enhanced, and then miles of connectivity established for aquatic species. Now, I list those and I read those off because obviously there's more that's listed in the GLRI plan, but these are very specific to this program. Your projects and proposals must address one of these measures of progress or multiple. Now, we also have eligible projects that may include the following activities, but projects that solely focus on these will not be funded. So this is the number of youth impacted through education and stewardship projects and number of people trained through workforce development programs. So again, we have our bulleted list of main measures of progress that proposals can align with. And then these other elements are secondary to that. So they can be a part of one of these other projects that we've listed there, but they can't stand alone. I just want to ensure that that's clear. And then moving on to the structure of the grant itself. So we have for this first cycle of funding a range between 2 and 4 million available for total funding to be distributed and dispersed throughout the proposals submitted. Awards range from 50,000 to 750,000, meaning that you can apply for a grant project within this range. I will say that we do not have any specific kind of parameters or boundaries around how many grants we're going to submit, meaning that, we don't plan on giving, $50,000 grants and so on and so forth. It's just we're working within this range. And so we just opening it up and allowing folks to submit their projects and proposals for the review process. Project's length can range from 2 to 3 years. Now, an important element of the community grant program is that the funding has to support meaningful community-driven projects, community-led projects that focus on the GLRI action plan's priorities that we listed. Okay. Just check my time here. As far as organizations and that are eligible to apply, nonprofit organizations, tribes, state, county, local governments, municipalities and their subdivisions, as well as academic institutions are all eligible to apply for this grant program. Again, all award projects should be community-led or community-driven. Federal agencies are not eligible recipients of funding, but they can be included as partners in a particular project. And there is an area within the application that allows you to list any partners, organizations, or otherwise that you have throughout this initiative. Geographic eligibility, you can see a map there. It's primarily focused on the United States portion of the Great Lakes watershed, spanning the 8 Great Lakes states. So any project within these boundaries is eligible for this funding. I will provide a caveat in terms of organizations. The organization itself that's applying does not have to be within these boundaries, but the projects themselves have to take place within the U.S. boundaries of the Great Lakes watershed. In terms of the use of funds and what can be applied to this grant program, again, I mentioned that this is a capacity building grant, and so there's some areas that organizations can utilize to help build that capacity. And so these are the project costs, salaries and pay for staff, fringe benefits, contractual support for actual on the ground work, tools and equipment, supplies, Conferences and travel, I've listed that. So if there's opportunities for organizations to demonstrate the work that they're doing within their communities. We also have Restore America's Estuaries in our capacity building programs and offerings, an annual learning exchange. We had this past year to kick off this grant program. And so that'll be an annual event where we'll bring it together these sub-awardees, but we'll have to build in those costs into this grant, as well as indirect costs. This is a reimbursement program. So reimbursement requests, we ask that they're submitted quarterly and at the most monthly. There is an opportunity for a working capital advance. So for organizations that don't have the financial capacity, if they need an advance in terms of getting the work started and launched, up to 2 months, they're eligible to receive that. That's also an area within the application that you can mark and give an estimate. Once that 2-month window is up, we'll move into a reimbursement process from there. And then the 2-month window also requires for working capital advance, just documentation, reporting of the expenditure of funds. And then I just wanted to list some areas of ineligible use of fundings. So, having a sense of what will not be funded. Projects solely focused on research and monitoring. There is an exception to that where research and monitoring can be part of a project, but it cannot be a standalone. Actions legally required. So any enforcement actions or court orders, permit mitigation measures, routine maintenance, if it's an existing infrastructure, facilities, or even the project that's being applied for, continuation of that maintenance of that is not fundable. Conventional gray infrastructure, things like installation of sewer lines, concrete systems, private construction, any new construction or retrofitting of private residential, commercial, or institutional buildings is not fundable. Land purchasing is not eligible for funding. Lobbying. Projects focused solely on access or recreation. Workforce development, environmental education. They cannot be standalone. Again, as I mentioned earlier, those can be part of a project. Any activities outside the U.S. Great Lakes Basin, so I mentioned the boundaries and the eligibility within that, they have to occur within the historic and current U.S. Great Lakes boundaries. And then Great Lakes areas of concern management actions. Projects solely aimed at evaluating or achieving AOC management actions are ineligible. AOC receives its own subset of funding through GLRI, so that would be duplicating funding efforts. This is not the official, this is just a resource for those that may need it. This is available on our webpage. I just think it's a nice template to utilize as you're thinking about building out budgets and creating line items. Something to keep in mind is that there's no match requirements for this particular grant program. So that's an important aspect of that and a question that we actually receive a lot. But again, this budget template is just something for you to work off of. It's not the official template that we ask you to complete on the application. And it is available on our website. We have a 2-stage application process. We have an LOI or a letter of intent that is officially open. It's been open since November 3rd. The date to submit that is January 16th. Then from there, we go through a review process, and then we'll invite organizations based on those reviews to submit to a full proposal. And then those full proposals will be submitted on April 17th. So, we're very mindful of the amount of time for folks to get their proposals together, and hopefully this is sufficient, which I think it is. But if there's any questions at any other point in terms of as you go through this process, the Ray staff and our partners are available for any questions. What the letter of intent entails. So these are the actual sections that you'll encounter in the application. So section 1 is just applicant information. Section 2 requires you to submit your EIN, your employment identification number, your unique entity ID. We'll ask you to submit an organizational budget as well as an estimated overall project cost. That's okay if you don't know the project cost. It's just an estimate and it's not a required element of the application itself. We're just trying to get a sense. Section 3 is a project overview. You can see there the areas or the fields that you'll enter in that particular section. Section 4, I put an asterisk by, excuse me. This is where you'll spend a bulk of your time in the application process. There are character limits to each of these sections, so something to keep in mind. I believe the character limits is 1,200 to 1,300 per field. And so this is also where the bulk of effort and energy will be spent in terms of the review process. Section 5 is the working capital advance. You'll just indicate whether you need it or not. It doesn't prohibit anyone from moving forward in the application or review process, whether you need it or not, just something to keep in mind. And then section 6 is where you'll actually enter the budget and proposal, or your proposed budget. You'll find the request for applications, the RFA. You can click the link and actually download it on our webpage, as well as the link to the actual applications on Unigrants. So the platform that we use, you click on those areas and it'll take you directly to that. And we'll get into a little bit more detail in terms of that process here shortly. And then the overall timeline. So I gave you the two-stage process, but this is the entire timeline. The requests for applications were open November 3rd. Letters of intent due on the 16th of January. The invitations to submit a full proposal will go out to organizations on February 23rd. The full proposal deadline is April 17th. And then notice of awards will be made in May of 2026 with an anticipated project start date of August of 2026. Some other things to keep in mind is that we'll be providing, Ray and our organizational partners, Junction Coalition, will be providing various capacity building opportunities. These will be posted on our website. We'll send these out in our newsletters. We encourage folks to participate or to share with your circles and your networks. So stay tuned for more information on those. I've also included a Calendly link on this page as well. That's to schedule a 45-minute call, conversation, technical assistance, any questions that you might have, follow up, or throughout the process, we are available. Again, if you want to schedule with myself or our organizational partners, we'll also ensure that our program associate, Lisette, gets her Calendly and makes that available on the webpage as well. And with that, let's see, it's 10:30. So I'd like to field a couple of questions at this time.
Hey, Jesus, I can read some of these questions out loud that we've had come in.
Okay.
I want to start off by one of the first questions I see here. There's a concern about land acquisition not being allowed, excuse me.
Mhm.
And folks are asking, will you please reconsider funding for wetland and unique habitat? Examples include Lake Plain Wet Mesic Prairie for this year's grant application.
Okay, I'm sorry you cut out a little bit there. Lisette, on the last part of that question.
Yeah,
Questioning.
so will you please reconsider funding for wetland and unique habitat for this year's grant application? Is
Wetland
what
and
they're
unique
asking.
habitat.
Yeah, like Lake Plain Wet Mesic Prairie, for example.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's we definitely could have the conversations. I know we've listed some ineligibility things there, but if there's any concern, I would just encourage folks to reach out to us directly and maybe have a conversation about those particular projects that they're thinking of.
And another question is, does having match make the proposal more competitive?
No, I mean it's just a no match across the board. Um, I think if organizations have a match, that's great. It definitely demonstrates commitment and investment in the project itself. But it's not going to, um, I guess, place one particular project above another.
Are there any other? Oh, there's a raised hand from Justice. Justice, go ahead.
So I was going to address the question about land acquisition. And just to tell a lot of you individuals who have not really dealt with federal grant programs, land acquisitions and federal grant programs is highly scrutinized. And part of the reason for that is because land actually never really loses value. So part of the issue that a lot of organizations have and the federal government has with respect to redistributing these funds to organizations such as Restore America's estuaries for things such as real property acquisition, which land is considered real property, is that it
Mhm.
never really loses value. And what you have to understand is that anything that is purchased with these grant funds that does not lose value technically defaults to the property of the federal government at the close of the grant. We will have a different discussion about this at a later date, but that's part of the reason why in a lot of federal grants, for those of you who have never really worked with federal grants, it is highly scrutinized and it is really hard and difficult to get that approved in a lot of grant funding. So just an FYI, a lot of these priorities that Jesus is dealing with, they're being handed down by the federal government. And so
Mhm.
some of the things he does have discretionary say in it, some of the things he does not. So some of these priorities are
Mhm.
things that are already set that have been in place for years. So just an FYI right there. That's part of the reason why land acquisition is one of those things, especially with respect to conservation efforts, is not allowed. But we totally are right there with the concerns. I live in a community
Mhm.
where that's a really big issue where you talk about development and not being able to save land and save property. But part of that is because if the federal government buys it, even though they bought it through you with grant funding, that property technically belongs to the federal government. And that becomes another issue within itself. So just an FYI right there.
Yeah, thank you for that, Justice.
Thank you, Justice. We do have a
We'll take
couple
one
more
more.
questions. Yeah. So we have an individual that says, can you please define the term clear public purpose?
Clear public purpose.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is that referring to specifically for the person that asked that question? They want to drop that in the chat. Is that referring to like the community-led, community-driven aspect of it, the impact on the?
Yeah, this is George Thomas. It's a question that asked,
Yeah. Hey, George.
and it's written in when we talked about projects. It's at page 6 of the RFA. It talks about projects being done on public lands, and
Hmm.
then it says if you're going to do it on private lands, you have to be able to show a clear public purpose
Yeah.
to
So that it
support.
right. So like if it's on private land, that it has a like public access element to it or a public purpose, right? That it's benefiting the surrounding community, and that relates back to that community impact and community driven aspects of this particular grant, George. Thank you. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Whitney Schumacher. She's did I pronounce that right, Whitney?
Yes, you did.
Let me stop sharing my screen here. The senior implementation manager for Unisolutions, and she is going to walk us through the portal and the application process. So thank you for being here, Whitney. Appreciate it.
Yep. Let me. One second. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So I'm going to go through slides for how to register and apply for your opportunity that you're going to complete, and then I'm going to do an in product demo. So you're actually going to see 2 times on how to do everything. And I will be monitoring chat, so if you want to ask questions while we're going along, no problem. All right, so like what I said, we're going to talk about the opportunity itself, what it looks like on the landing page, navigating the applicant portal and the application itself, and then how you can get help if you are stuck. So this image of this opportunity page is not quite the same one that you guys are going to apply to, since you're applying to with your letters of intent. But what happens when you go to this landing page is you're going to read the description and you're going to get more information about how you can apply for the grant and where to ask questions if you need more help. Actually, I need to go back. On this page, if you click print, it's only going to print that first opportunity page. If you click help, you'll see more information and emails, both for AmpliFund or for Unigrants, and the program managers on who to ask what. If you click download, that's going to download a copy of the application in case you want to look it up the questions before you actually click apply. And most importantly, we are going to go ahead and click apply. And upon clicking apply, you will get a register button or a login button. So you do not have to register before you click apply. And the most important part about registering is that you only want to register your organization once and have one account, and then you can add additional users. So I don't want everyone who's going to touch the application to register. You're going to have one person register, and then they can add you as a user. All right. And so upon registration, you will enter your email address, create a password, and then you can actually start and immediately start applying. So after you apply, you can see any other applications that you have with Unigrants, and you can see who is noted as your account owner and their organization information, as well as the user list. And if you're an admin and have that security role, you're able to add additional users as well as send them invites. When I add a user in the actual product, I will show you the difference between an editor and an administrator. Essentially, an administrator can create users, start and submit applications, while an editor can only update applications and cannot start or submit them. So as you create your application, you're going to have a timeline at the top of your page. And in order to submit your application, you need a check mark in every circle. So in this example, project information is not complete, application forms is not complete, and the budget is not complete. So if you looked at this example by itself, it would not be able to submit. So there's going to be a button at the bottom of every page, and it's going to say mark as complete. And that is a very important button because that's going to give you that check mark. You do not have to finish the entire page or whatever you're doing in order to save. There's also going to be a save button. So if you wanted to come back later, you had a question, you could save it, come back later, re-log in, and then your application is going to be right where you left it. So another important part, when you first start an application, you will have this project information page. You're going to enter how much award you're applying for. So we had that range in there before. You're going to put in that range, whatever amount that you're applying for, and that needs to correlate exactly with your budget. So in this example on the screen, which obviously is not an example that you guys are doing, but because your minimum is 50,000. In this example, if you requested $15,000, your budget needs to also equal $15,000. So in this budget, right now, there are no line items entered. So that means right now it's shown as 0, but on that project information page, you put 15,000. If that is the case, there's not going to be a mark as complete button. It's going to be grayed out. So you need to reconcile what you're requesting and what your budget is in order to submit your application. In the form area, you're going to have 5 forms, and you're going to need to make sure each status of the form is also known as complete. They're going to start with new. That means that they're all blank. You're going to click into each form, update it. You can save it. You can come back to it. But at the end of the day, you need to have them all marked as complete. So they're going to have a complete status. And once all forms are complete, you will then have the check mark on your application forms timeline. So same type of deal, just need to have everything complete. At the very end, before you have the submit button, if you don't have something marked as complete, then it's going to tell you in this red text. So it's saying that the project information page isn't marked as complete. It's saying that the form page, they're not all marked as complete. And then also the budget. So everything needs to be marked as complete, reconciled in order for you to go ahead and click submit. So in this example, submit is grayed out, but when they are all marked as marked as complete, you'll have the submit button. You'll be able to click it. At this point, you could also download a copy of what you're applying for or what you applied for. But don't worry, if you don't download it now, you can also download it later. So you don't need to download it right away. All right. So we're going to go ahead and jump into our demo. Do I have the correct opportunity and everything? Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. All right. So this is the landing page. I will warn you, I'm in a sandbox, so don't try to go in and figure out my URL. It's going to be slightly different than what you're actually going to apply for. So this is the opportunity details page. This is the landing page. So you're going to have a whole bunch of information and detail on how you should fill out the application, who to contact, important dates and amounts. Here's what the minimum you can apply for. Here's the maximum you can apply for. And other information about how it's going to be awarded and more question and answer sessions. All that fun stuff and more information. Another great thing is if you click the help button, it's also going to tell you, again, more information on who to contact. And a Unigrants help guide if needed. All right, so we're going to go ahead and apply. So I'm going to go ahead and click login. Oops, actually, I'm just going to go ahead and click apply. Sorry. So at this time, it's going to ask me to register or log in. Let's say I'm decided I'm going to register for the organization. So I'm going to click register. And I'm going to go ahead and enter my information. This is obviously fake information. So it's going to default me as a administrator as my security role. I can enter any of my contact information. And my address. And I'm assuming probably for most of you, you can just click same as above. I'm going to go ahead and click register. Oh. Upon registration, I'm going to get my terms in use. So I'm going to agree to that. All right, so I have logged in. So at this time, I could go ahead and click apply, but I want to add a user. So the home button, when you're in your applicant portal, is going to be this logo at the top left. So when you log into gotomygrants.com, this is going to be your new homepage. It's going to have a grid of any applications you've started or completed. And it's going to say the status. Statuses may be unsubmitted, submitted, approved, rejected, withdrawn, all those type of things. In your account information, it's what I just entered as my organization information. So you could edit it here. And let's go ahead and add a user. So if you hover over the I on the security role field, it's going to tell you the difference. Like I said, administrators can start applications, they can edit applications, and they can submit applications, and they can add users. An editor can only update an application that's already been started, and they cannot submit an application. Best practice, I would say you'd want two administrators because you don't want to be panicking at the last minute because the person who is the administrator can't turn in your application when it's due. So you could fill out the rest of the information for them, and you're going to click the invite button, and this is going to send them an invite email to your applicant portal where they will set up a password, and they'll also be able to log into this same portal. All right, so now we are going to get started. So I'm back at my landing page for my opportunity, and I'm going to go ahead and click apply. You'll notice now that I am logged in, it has my name and my my organization under it. All right, so let's see here. Here is our timeline that we talked about earlier. I need a check mark in every circle in order to be able to submit at the end. So you're going to go ahead and name your application. And here is a very important part. Remember that award ceiling and floor we talked about? So if I put anything less than that, it's going to tell me. So it's saying I need to enter more than $50,000. If I enter too much, same thing, it's going to tell me you can't do that, right? So I'm going to enter an acceptable amount. This is going to default to me, but I can update this information. So this is the primary contact information. This might not be who's actually applying. So if I wanted to put someone else as the primary contact, I can go ahead and update this, okay? This email address is the email address that's going to get all of the application status emails. So just because I'm applying, if I put a different email, that's the email that's going to get those so the submission status, the your status has changed. It's either approved, rejected type of status. So that's something to note. This is the email address that's going to get all of those notifications, but you can update it. And also, if you are starting your application and this is blank, go ahead and enter because you're going to need to enter everything in a required that has that required asterisk. So after I've updated this, I'm going to go ahead and click mark as complete. And then I can either click save and continue, or I can actually just click on the top of this timeline too. So because I did mark as complete, I get that checkbox. All right, so now all of our forms have a new status. I need them all to have a complete status. So I'm going to go ahead and click into them. And I'm going to go through this fast because we only have for time and because we're trying to get through how you can, so I can show you the full application process. So you're going to fill it out. All of the questions that have the asterisk, you will need to fill out, and it's not going to let you mark as complete. So I have obviously not entered everything. If I click mark as complete, it's going to say, no, you are not done yet. And it has this nice red text where you do need to enter. You'll also see, like for this phone, they're telling you how you should do your format. So go ahead and follow what they are telling you to do. I think I have too many numbers in there. Now that I have all the asterisks, I can go ahead and mark as complete, and I get the success message. So if I do save and continue, it's going to push me on to the second form. So again, because of time, I'm going to push through this. Make sure I fill out all of these asterisks. Some of them, like you'll see right here, are conditional. And you'll see in some fields, you'll see this number below it. And that is actually the character counter. So that's the maximum you can do. So I can't go over that amount for characters. Gonna keep going. Notice this one doesn't have an asterisk. You'll see other fields like this where you can select more than one box. And also here you can select more than one box if you hold Control. And I'm left clicking. If you need to upload a file, you can go ahead and click Choose File. You'll be able to upload it from your computer. You can upload more than one file at one time, or you can do them individually. Oh, it says, I need to read the instructions. It says attach a single file. Okay. Always great to read the instructions. You also see multi-line boxes, and you'll have this formatting bar. So if you would like to use the formatting bar, you don't have to, but it might make your whatever you're trying to describe better or look better. I'm going to show you an example of how to save. So I'm going to click Save. I saved it. I have not marked it complete, and you'll notice it's going to show in progress. So, and then I'm going to go back into it. I can click Mark as complete. With time, I'm going to go through these next ones real fast. You also remember these are the character limits. So I want to make sure we get to the budget before. Got it. So on this last one, there's no questions, but there's obviously information on how to fill out the budget. All right, we're at the budget. So remember I entered $50,000 on the project information page. I need to enter $50,000 on this budget in order for it to reconcile, and I get rid of this red text. So I'm going to click a plus sign, and you can go ahead and do non-personnel. The personnel items are going to make it a little bit more complicated. So, but you can enter non-personnel, and then you can enter however you want to fill out your budget. I'm just going to do a general one for the sake of time. If you have more information, you can enter it in the narrative or the attachment. Go ahead and click create, and you'll see my line item, and you'll see that my budget's now at 10,000. Remember, I put 50,000, so I still need to add $40,000 worth of expenses. If your option line item is not selected, make sure it's selected so you can see everything. So I'm going to go ahead and add $40,000 so I can get it to reconcile. So now I am at 50, and you can also add more than one line item per budget category. In this example, I didn't to just make it simple, but make it as complex or as simple as you're planning on doing. That's fine. But your total overall budget cost needs to equal 0. That means we're reconciled. So I'm going to go ahead and click Mark as continue, Mark as complete. And now when I'm at my submit page, I have all check marks I need, and I can go ahead and click submit. If at this time you can still go ahead and edit anything you've done before, it's not locked in yet. If I need to update my budget, or if I need to update my budget and my project information so they enter, that's great. Go ahead and just click mark as complete again. So you get all of your check marks. And then when you're ready, you're going to go ahead and click the submit button. And we're going to get our success message, that primary contact from that project information. They're going to get that email. And after it successfully is submitted, I'm also going to, so it's submitted, we're good. I'm going to go back to my home page, and now look, I can see it. It's in this submitted status. Do we have any questions?
We may have time for one question. I know we're a little over, but
If
no.
you have, oh, sorry.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Wendy.
I'm just saying, if you have questions on how to actually submit your UniGrant application, I have a couple options for you. You can visit our support portal. You can email support@amplifund.zendesk.com, and you'll create a ticket. or you can call our help desk and get actual support, so we can make sure you guys all get your application submitted.
Awesome.
And then if you go to amplifund.zendesk.com, you can actually create an account and you could see your ticket, but you don't actually have to in order for you to get support. You can just email that email address.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Whitney. We really appreciate your time and your support and making yourself available. I know we're over. I just want to thank everyone for extending their time a little bit. We hope this was helpful. If there's any outstanding questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. And then, Andrea, I see your question coming through. Any best practices? Definitely. We'll be having some sessions and some support in terms of the best ways to get those down. But one of the best ways is to draft your answers and things on a separate document and whittle it down to the way and format that you want and the size that you want to fit in with that. With that, I'm going to end the session. And again, if there's any outstanding questions, do not hesitate to reach out to myself, Lisette, or the Junction Coalition team. We're happy and we're here to answer your questions. And we look forward to seeing you all submit proposals. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.